It's a midst of mock draft season, and we've been reviewing some mock drafts for the Minnesota Vikings. So we decided to go with the local angle. We got the Star Tribune 7-round Vikings mock draft with trades from the legendary Ben Goessling, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So he has the Vikings making 3 trades. Now, there isn't any explanation about why the trade went down, just sort of like trades happen, which I'm all for, by the way. But the Vikings still come away with 12 picks, and overall, I'm pretty dang happy with this draft, so let's get into it. So Vikings traded back from 22 to 24. Actually, the trade numbers aren't actually that important, but they end up with Josh Jones. Oh, come on in. Yeah, where the Vikings brick on some of the big, the big 3 tackles. And frankly, even if Becton is on the board, I may go Josh Jones. I may go Ezra Cleveland. I know you're looking at me like, that's crazy. You're crazy. You're right. I am crazy. Oh, I just spoiled all the picks. Oh, well. But I would seriously consider it. So I would love this pick at 24. The fact that you're trading back from 22 to 24, get a little bit extra sugar. So there you go. They mentioned that Jefferson on board. I do think he overlaps quite a bit with Adam Thielen. But Kinlaw being there, I mean, that may be a pretty tough decision. If Kinlaw got to that point, but then also you have to wonder, some of those red flags that teams are sort of banding about, are those coming to fruition? I don't really know. But 25, so Vikings get back-to-back picks. Hefe Gladney from TCU, where I love this kid. And you see in this tier are all 3 of our second-tier cornerbacks, where you have Christian Fulton, Jalen Johnson, Jeff Gladney. And now I love Gladney. I love Jalen Johnson just because of the way that they get after it, especially in man-to-man coverage, a little bit more gamblers. Like Fulton, probably a better all-around cover cornerback, but I mean, stylistically, I like Gladney. I like Johnson. Love either one at this spot. Third pick, so sticking at 58, picks up Brandon Ayuk, which is just phenomenal. Where for me, I put Rieger and Ayuk sort of close together stylistically. Clear advantage goes to Rieger, but Brandon Ayuk, yeah, you are concerned that he's a one-hit wonder here, but just the fact that him in the open field also adds a little bit to the return game too. I mean, doesn't need to work out route running a bit, but if he's the first wide receiver off the board for the Vikings and going to contribute right away, I don't mind this one at all. Next up is also other possibilities. So Justin Matabuke, where if you're going BPA, it's not exceedingly deep or top-heavy once you get past Brown and Kinlaw, defensive interior class. But Matabuke, I think, really would suture up what the Vikings need at that 3-tech spot, as well as T. Higgins. If you want to go for the big condor, big-bodied dude, that would be the place to go. I would also like, say, Michael Pittman Jr., put them in the same category here. Fourth pick, so the Vikings move up from 89 up to 78. Like we said, there's Ben gives the Vikings 3 trades here. Julian Okwara, edge rusher from Notre Dame, where this would stick to Spielman's MO, where they skew edge, pass on Epinesa, Gross Matos first round, and then bring in some mid-round edge help here, where Okwara is probably a little bit more polished than some of the other mid-round guys. Although, Kurtz from Boise State, I think is pretty legit, but I think this would be great pick, great value here. Plus, he could add some flexibility. It could be a 4-3 down defensive end, as well as if the Vikings are shifting more towards that 3-4, could be one of the outside linebackers there. I'll say they list Kyle Duggar, the small school safety from Lone Ryan, as well as Austin Jackson, where, I mean, I don't see Austin Jackson getting this far in the draft. I think that teams will overdraft him potentially because of the hype and because of the potential and because of the tools. But I mean, if he got to 78, I mean, I don't even care that you got Josh Jones. I probably would have taken Austin Jackson in the 3rd round too. So the Vikings' 5th pick, 89, picking up Matt Hennessy out of Temple, which is a guy that I really like, would be a great scheme fit, would really fit nicely inside, probably kick to one of the guard spots right away. So the Vikings, checking the boxes right away on 2 really nice athletic offensive linemen fitting in that zone scheme. Basically be your future left side of the line. So you got Hennessy at left guard, and then you got Josh Jones at left tackle. Whew. But also, they list Ben Barsh. Ben Barsh would need a lot of time. I think he is a great project, but would probably benefit from sitting a year or maybe 2. Meek Robertson is a guy that I really love too. So, they're decided to double down at this point. Doubling down on offensive line, I think that's okay. But also, I think after a Meek and say like Tony Pride Jr., there's a pretty steep drop-off in level of cornerback play So if the Vikings would have gone a Meek here as opposed to Hennessy, I wouldn't have been that upset. Next up, fifth round. So the Vikings bumped out of the fourth round in the number of trades, 164. McTelvin Agim coming out of Arkansas, former teammate of Armon Watts. And I just really do love this guy coming in. Brings a little bit of versatility, brings some penetration to that interior defensive line. And at the spot where you got Aquara as well as you have Agim coming in, that's two nice tools coming in for Andre Patterson. Now, could this upset the apple cart? What happens with Jaleel Johnson? What happens with Jalen Holmes? I think Armon Watts is ready to carve himself out a spot in year 2. What about Hercules Mataafa? Right, so this defensive line room is getting really crowded with a lot of young talent, and ain't mad at that at all. I also list so Tyler Johnson, James Morgan. I would have loved TJ. I don't see him dropping to the 5th, even though this is a pretty deep class. He is going to get knocked for lack of being a plus athlete, but I think he's just a tough, hard-nosed kid that the Vikings went with him in the 3rd round, 4th round, even though, the Vikings are a 4th round pick. I don't see him falling this far, though. Next up, 6th round, 201. J.R. Reed, safety out of Georgia. Now, I like him. Was first team All-SEC. Really like his ability on the back end. I think he would be a nice facsimile for replacing Anthony Harris if they do have to part ways with him long term. But coming in as that third safety, get his feet wet on special teams and as a backup makes a lot of sense. Also listed Kevin Dotson, who's one of my like super sleeper. Well, not so much sleeper, but really nice interior offensive lineman later on, as well as Cameron Clark out of Charlotte, which would be a full-on small school prospect, sort of in the Oli Udoh mold, which would make sense because Oli Udoh was a 6th round pick as well. Also in the 6th round, 205. So Dane Jackson coming in out of Pittsburgh. Now, I like him. Like, he really does get after it. I think he is clearly in like the 3rd or 4th tier of cornerbacks, though. So even though they didn't double up on cornerback early, which I would have liked. The fact that you're coming with Gladney as well as Dane Jackson, plus J.R. Reed on the back end. That's a nice little way to replenish the secondary for the Vikings there. 9th pick. So 7th round, 219. They picked up Travis Gibson out of Tulsa. Now, I absolutely adore this pick. I don't think he falls to the 7th round. I think just because of traits and because this is a relatively thin edge class, I think he will go. He may even go the bottom end of 3rd round, but he's certainly going to go probably in the top end of day 3, 4th, 5th round. But long arms, super athletic, just would be just raw, absolute putty in the hands of Andre Patterson. So again, Aquara, Agim, and now we got Gibson, especially Gibson and Aquara on the edge. With the Fadi, with Daniil Hunter, with Everson potentially coming back. Baby, I love it. Also in the 7th round, so 231, picking up the big-bodied running back Sewa Olunulo out of TCU. This makes a lot of sense. I think the Vikings should spend a pick because you have 12 of them on a running back. So the guy coming out of TCU does make some sense. It stylistically overlap a little bit with Alexander Madison, sure, but at this stage of the draft, sort of whatever. Also, you list DJ Dallas, running back from the U, a guy that I like, plus Carter Coughlin. Would make sense if he projects more as a linebacker because Goessling doesn't give Spielman his stereotypical late round linebacker in his draft. So the Vikings do see him more as a linebacker. That would make a lot of sense. 11th pick, 7th round, 249. So Nate Stanley, big body, decent arm, quarterback coming out of Iowa would be a big project. It is a bit of a statue back there, but what can you do there? Also, they list Jacob Phillips, the linebacker from LSU. I think that would make a lot of sense. Probably giving him the edge over Divinity Jr., also coming out of LSU, as well as Gus Lavaca coming out of Oregon State, who older prospect for sure, but could he step in day one and be a little bit of a depth contributor, maybe push eventually to be a starter? Sure. Just because of massive size, but I'm really not down drafting like really, really old draft picks. Like I get mad when they draft a 23-year-old dude. That's how snobby I am. Ageist. Lastly, 7th round, 253. They get another receiver from the U in the mold of Stacey Coley, little Hefe Thomas coming on in, as well as other picks. So Shaheem Carter, John Reed would make sense if they didn't go secondary early on. I like Carter's versatility coming out of Alabama. Plus, Saban certainly does know his defensive backs. You like that he can play safety and cornerback. And also, John Reed, he's not the most uber athletic cornerback in the world. Does have some injury concerns as well, but is just absolutely whip smart, heady, knowledgeable knowledgeable cornerback that just gets after. It really reminds me of like Jack Tocho coming out of NC State a couple years ago as well. And that is it. That is Star Tribune 7-round mock draft. Overall, I really like what Ben did here with the Vikings. 3 trades involved there, but you're coming away, like we mentioned, you're coming away with Josh. Man, I wish I could make this bigger. That's what she said. Oh, wait, I actually think I can. So you're coming away with Josh Jones, coming away with Matt Hennessy, 2 really nice pieces on the interior offensive line, as well as perfect scheme fits for what they want to do in the zone scheme. Plus, I mean, you come away with Jeff Gladney, who's going to come in and be a starter right away, opposite of Mike Hughes, opposite of Holton Hill. Brendan Aiyuk coming in as the wide receiver. Now, they did only spend one early draft pick on Aiyuk. Does Jeff Thomas come in to the mix right away? But the fact that you get Aiyuk and as well as Thielen, working in with Sharp and BC, that's not an overly terrible wide receiver room. Plus, I really like guys like Davion Davis, Dylan Mitchell, Alexander Hollins here too as well. Edge, I mean, they were really heavy at linebacker. Linebacker and edge, which could make a lot of sense if the Vikings are moving to that 3-4, where Aquara as well as Gibson, I think, could be stand-up 3-4 outside linebackers, bringing that edge presence. I think Aquara is a really nice piece. Could be a 4-3 defensive end, could be that 3-4 outside linebacker. So getting him in the 3rd round is huge. Hennessy, where I talked about. Oh, McTelvin Agim coming on in, just adding some more ingredients to that gumbo on the defensive line. It's really, really shaping up nice here. J.R. Reed coming in. I think Jake Reed's kid, of course, I think he eventually could develop into a starter, but coming in, and I think skill-wise really does overlap a lot with Anthony Harris coming in that back end, backup at first, special teams guy at first, eventually working his way up. Dane Jackson, who we like coming in as well. Travis Gibson, we talked about, just long, strong legs to get the friction on. Absolute physical freak specimen. Really, really raw. Also needs to work on his run defense prowess, but as a situational pass rusher coming in right away, makes a lot of sense. Sui Olunula, the running back out of TCU. We talked about we would love a running back late, and then they do pick up the quarterback prospect late, Nate Stanley. I prefer Mason Fine, prefer Tyler Huntley, but I mean, 7th round, beggars can't really be choosers, as well as Hefe Thomas coming in wide receiver from the U. I think overall, this is an awesome draft. I'm in. I think Ben did a great job here. So there you go. That is reviewing the Star Tribune 7-round mock draft. What are your thoughts? How did Ben do? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. If you want to support the work, pull us on the Venmo. Please give us a follow on social media as well. But until next time, Skull, production value.